Good morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It is Good Tuesday News Day. We're going to cover all the good stories, or at least the things we think are good today. You know, I guess some people don't like worker unions, but I do. And we're covering all that stuff and more here on Before Coffee, the father and daughter comprehensive news of planet Earth, where we look up our stories 10 to 15 minutes before we start without any caffeine in our body. So let's read out those headlines. Stay on Before Coffee. Liftoff! NASA just successfully launched the largest spacecraft to a planet in the agency's 66-year history.
And good news, a bunch of cult members get stranded out in the desert, and we're going to talk about what went right this week. And CBD helps kill mosquitoes.
So, they lied about employing Afghan commandos and tried to send them back to Afghanistan.
And good news, Joe Biden opens a new marine sanctuary in California, and Australia also starts a new marine sanctuary.
I don't care about looking weird. Are we finally listening to the dangers of hearing loss?
And it's National Cheese Curd Day. That's right. Get that cheese curd on today. Get them little glops of whey in your mouth. It is October 15th, 2024 on Before Coffee. It's 11 things today. 11.
That's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
So good morning, Nav. And let's go ahead and start with our first news story, which is from NASA, coming from NASA. This is on the inverse. I don't know if anybody wrote it, but it's on the inverse. NASA's Europa Clipper is now soaring towards Jupiter to look for an environment that could support extraterrestrial life. The spacecraft is the largest NASA has ever deployed for a planetary mission. When its solar arrays are fully deployed, Clipper will span more than 100 feet in space. Europa Clipper launched successfully on Monday, which was the 14th of October afternoon from the space agency's Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida. So even though there's a hurricane happening there every other day, they were able to still launch this thing into space. When a SpaceX Falcon Heavy rocket lofted the mission into space, astronomers started a 7-year countdown. In 2031, Europa Clipper will rendezvous with for the first time with the moon, Europa. In the dark, deep pits of the moon-sized world, the environment might just be right to harbor life. When NASA's Voyager 2 first photographed Europa 50 years ago, as other spacecraft like Galileo, New Horizons, and Juno have since then peeked at its surface, astronomers began to suspect that Europa's 15-mile thick outer crust of ice was hiding an ocean. An eclectic mix of circumstances in the outer solar system might ensemble the hydrothermal vent environment of the bottom of the Earth's oceans, where biologists suspect life first arose on our planet. I think it's going to be ice made out of nitrogen or something, and not hydrogen based. And then they're going to be like, "Oh, this is nitrogen ice," because they've never actually gone there and picked up a piece. I think they've just looked at it and said, "Oh, look, that's a giant ice glob floating in space." At 12:06 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, the Falcon Heavy cleared the launch pad, also known as UTC -6. I think we should all start using UTC globally. It is the global timekeeping measurement. A minute later, it was supersonic. It survived the roughest phase of the ascension, called Max Q, when dynamic pressures caused the rocket to experience maximum mechanical stress. The Falcon Heavy's boosters, which previously helped launch NASA's Psyche mission, successfully released 4 minutes after launch. 2 minutes later, the rocket had completed its job, leaving Europa Clipper to complete the rest of the journey. Clipper then began its first maneuver, a roughly 3-minute burn, to begin setting up its trajectory towards Jupiter. Clipper will build upon what's known about Europa's ice. Previous studies have found signs that there is subsurface ocean that helps the crust to regenerate. If it exists, the ocean covers Europa's entire body. It's a dark place, definitely blocked from whatever sunlight reaches Jupiter's realm. We believe there are some unusual features down here that are caused by Jupiter. Jupiter is huge. You can fit 1,000 Earths inside of it. On top of that, the orbit of Europa is not quite circular. So when it gets close to Jupiter, it gets kind of squashed. When it gets further away, it releases the mechanical energy into thermal energy. Bonnie Berati, deputy project scientist of Europa Clipper, said in a NASA broadcast played before the spacecraft's launch. He could come out as thermal vents, releasing energy and chemicals to create an ideal region for a habitable environment. Most life on Earth needs sunlight, but not all. Abyssal and huddle regions at the depths of the Earth's ocean are also dark. There, heat is generated from the ground below the water. Clipper will search for answers by performing almost 50 close flybys of Europa's surface, intricate clips that allow it to collect precious clues while surviving Jupiter's dangerous radiated environment. Why can't they like get something to land there? I guess they're not sure if this is like the seeing if they can even land anything on the planet. NASA will shape Europa Clipper route by sending it on gravitational flybys of Mars and Earth in the next few years. If all goes according to plan, in 2030, Clipper will first encounter Jupiter and undergo a lengthy maneuver to insert itself into the gas giant's orbit. Clipper will then use gravity of the other Jovian moons to tweak its path through space and to shrink its orbit down to its ideal track. Eventually, Europa's Clipper work would prove the universe is a less lonely place than we currently think. So, I mean, I already know it's not lonely. There's a bunch of molecules out there floating around in space. Maybe we can't talk with them, but they're out there on little meteorites, surviving the harsh radiation of space.
Jupiter could be the home of the giants who live inside the planet. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know.
We don't know.
We know the chemical makeup. We know it's chemical makeup, but it's, yeah, we know Earth's chemical makeup too, so that doesn't really help us know if there's life. There's possibility of life everywhere. We just don't understand what life could consist of. We know that there's life, there's possibility of life based on silica instead of carbon. So
it's all possible.
That's a Star Trek episode.
Well, on to your story.
Pretty cool. Oh, my story. All right. My story we're going to talk about, I guess it's good news. It's good news if you like a good laugh. Because I don't know if you remember 2020, Donald Trump campaign stranded a bunch of people out in Omaha, Nebraska without a ride back to their cars.
And it was cold as well.
They had an event in some field somewhere. Yeah,
people had frostbite.
Late October. Yeah, cold as, all get out. People had to walk back to their cars. Well, it happened again 4 years later. This time it's a warmer place, at least, and drier, of course. The California desert. Yeah, Coachella. Trump rally. This is from Yahoo.com, but everybody covered this. Trump Coachella rally attendees were left stranded after campaign buses left without them. This is from Stephanie Kaloy. I can't wait till he both sides this article. Anyway.
Biden also
Trump made the unusual... Oh, yeah. In related news, Kamala Harris had to make her staff wait 5 minutes while she went to the bathroom. Anyway. That'll be the both-sider argument of it. See, she does it too. She makes people wait. Anyway, I'm injecting stuff into this article that ain't there. Not fair. Anyway, Donald Trump made the unusual decision to hold a campaign event in Coachella, California on Saturday, state that he is undoubtedly set to lose in this year's election. How democratic is the Democratic in California? They usually have two Democrats running against each other for Senate because they have a primary where it's the top two get to go to the finals, and then it's usually the top two is Democrats. It's a very democratic state. Unfortunately for thousands of those who showed up, the buses seemingly didn't return to the venue late into the night, leaving many attendants stranded. That's right. The story unfolded through a series of videos shared on social media Saturday into Sunday, and a series of posts on social media that are eventually deleted, but were shared in screenshots. At Wesley Johnson wrote that there was only one bus in rotation, and turnaround time for each drop-off was 30 minutes, and thousands waiting for said bus. Johnson's added there were originally 20 to 30 buses at the event. He also charged that something nefarious went down tonight to spark a riot. Johnson later added that a bus driver told some abandoned attendees that all of the buses, all the fuel stations for the buses, not cars, were completely depleted, which meant some of the bus drivers were stranded without gas. There were apparently 60 buses employed for the event, and fuel reserves are completely depleted or never been refilled before the event. Never refilled before the event. So, we'll get gas when we get there, and then we get to the gas station, and we filled up a bunch of buses today, and we're out of gas. That's their excuse. I'm not sure that's the actual excuse, but it sounds like one they're using. Smells like sabotage, Johnson asserted without basis for his charge. He later explained that he deleted his initial post because I was hoping some help would come from it, but all it did was cause drama. The buses had to drive 30 minutes out to find fuel, and many didn't return, and some stranded themselves trying to find fuel. Then the CHP ordered the bus drivers to stop driving. This all came from the bus drivers updating us. As we said, the bus asking what happened. I doubt that CHP ordered them to stop driving. That's absolutely. They just made that stuff up. And the sheriffs were all just confused as we were. My story stands, but the drama got out of hand. So that's just some guy posting on Twitter. Not necessarily anything actually accurate about it. In a separate video, reshared on X, a man explained this isn't normal. Apparently the buses are no longer coming, or at least there used to be like 20 buses when we were being brought here, but now there's only like 3 buses operating. It's just chaos, absolute chaos. All is stranded, everything is stranded here. TikTok was also watching videos in the event and the aftermath. The account of Sora Random 1977 shared several videos aggregated from attendees. One woman took a social media platform to share that she and her husband were set to attend the event, but ended up missing it due to tremendous crowds looking to attend and apparently lacking logistics to support those attending. Well, that's silliness. That's just somebody who thought of going and go. Who cares? As Shannon at Christine 55 explained, the pair arrived at the event and it was a nightmare. The line to park cars was a mile long and the cars were not moving. They parked about a mile from the venue and walked the entire distance to the parking lot where they hoped to board a shuttle. The pair decided to leave after waiting for a line for an hour. And thankfully, I did hear from another woman who got there around the same time that we did. She stood in line for two hours to see Trump. Wow. You want to talk about cult members? You want to talk people that aren't thinking for themselves? The Desert Sun reported that the event was limited to a maximum capacity of 15,000 people at Riverside County. Trump claimed it was a rally attended by 100,000, but he's a liar. Who cares? So, no both sider nonsense on here. But it's funny to watch people get stranded going out to see their fascist cult leader. That is hilarious. And in good news, that's actual good news. We're going to get through this real quick. Good News Network, Andy Corbally, CBD from hemp kills mosquitoes, inflicting 100% mortality rate on pesticide-resistant insects. That's right. Hemp leaf extract, CBD, was recently shown in a study to kill both species of yellow fever mosquito in their larval phase, including one that had developed insecticide resistance. The study demonstrates yet again how many different things hemp can be used for, but unlike anything discovered so far, use as an insecticide could literally save millions of lives. Mosquitoes are one of the deadliest animals in the world, mainly because as adults, they serve as vectors of disease, said Eric Martinez Rodriguez, who is author of the study and graduate student at entomology at Ohio State University. It's very important to be able to control these pests at an early stage when they are the most vulnerable. Much like infectious bacteria, the rampant use of insecticides to control mosquito populations has led some populations developing robust resistance to those poisons. Not to mention, they are poisons and they kill people by spreading, lymphoma and stuff like that. Inspired by previous Ohio State research, which discovered that bark properties of plant native to Madagascar worked as a natural mosquito insecticide and repellent, Rodriguez sought to determine if hemp could act as a viable and safe alternative to current biopesticides. Larvae are far more easily to target than adult mosquitoes, which can fly and travel long distances. To test hemp's toxic effects against mosquito larvae, Rodriguez and his team took air-dried hemp leaves, pulverized them in a fine powder, and soaked them in methanol for a few weeks to reach the desired CBD concentrations. The methanol was later removed in the solution to make it easier to chemically analyze, resulting in an extract that was eventually given to the larvae with their food. Depending on the concentration of the hemp extract used, the team discovered that the hemp leaf was potent enough to be equally toxic to both strains of mosquito larvae. What surprised Rodriguez was the small amount needed to be so deadly. If you compare the amount of hemp extract needed to kill 50% of the population to other synthetic conventional insecticides, it is on the high side. But when you compare it to side by side to other natural extracts we have tested in our lab, only a relatively low amount is required to produce high mortality values in larvae, Rodriguez told Ohio State's press team. While CBD eventually led to 100% mortality for the larvae, the concentration of hemp extract caused different mortality rates in the hours leading up to that time. Cannabidiol, or CBD for short, is one of the many active compounds of the hemp plant and is non-psychoactive. Hemp is just one kind of the cannabis sativa plant, one which typically contains low amounts of THC, the compound that gets us all high. CBD and hemp are more generally have many medicinal household uses, some of which GNN has reported on before. Good News Network, GNN. Among those uses are veterinary care products, which raises interesting questions about the toxicity of CBD to other animals. For example, insects we don't want killed, like butterflies or honeybees. CBD is a compound that appears to be safe for people and our companion animals to ingest. It'd be interesting to learn more about CBD and interacts with various proteins in mammals and insects to understand why it's safe for people and not insects. Okay, there's your two longer stories on Good News Tuesday. Grow more hemp. It grows really fast. It grows faster than trees. You can make paper out of it. You can make buildings out of it. So much uses. You can kill mosquitoes with it. Back to you.
And nobody likes mosquitoes, so that's always good news.
No.
I mean, mosquitoes would be fine if they didn't make you itch when they bit you. I think nobody would care as much, right? If they just bit you and then no reaction, you didn't care. But the fact that it's itchy and then you wake up in the middle of the night scratching yourself and you have a bunch of welts all over your skin, that's kind of really the problem.
When I was a kid, I'd let them fill up with blood until they popped. You can do that. If you just pull your skin, if you pull your skin really tight like this,
like
stuck. Your arm, they can't pull their little barbs out, and they can't stop sucking blood because it's a capillary effect. There's nothing they can do about it. The blood just goes in them, so they explode. So yeah, that's fun for you kids out there. First, don't get malaria while you're doing it.
All right. Let's talk about Afghan commandos who have been mistreated by the UK, not only in being deported, but the UK was denying that they were ever hiring commandos from Afghanistan. And now they've been caught in their lies and revealed the truth. This is from Hallie Bancroft on The Independent. Hundreds of Afghan Special Forces soldiers and their family members will be allowed to resettle in the UK after ministers admitted that new evidence has confirmed they were paid by the government. So this is good news because people who are being mistreated are getting the treatment they deserve, which is allowed to settle in the place they've been working probably for 10 years. Luke Pollard, the Armed Forces Minister, told the Commons on Monday, October 14th, that a Ministry of Defense review, sparked by campaigning MPs and a joint investigation by the Independent, Lighthouse Reports, and Sky News, has found that members of the Afghan specialist units were directly employed by the UK government despite previous denials. And they were making a bunch of that government contractual money. So thousands of these soldiers who fought side by side with British troops had been denied relocation to the UK under the Afghan Relocations and Assistance Policy, ARAP. Conservative ministers had told Parliament that these soldiers, known as triples, were not directly employed by the UK. No, when are the Tories gonna not dig a hole deeper, you know? They could have just been like, oh yeah, it's fine. But they had to be like, no, we can't let those soldiers come here even though they worked for us. However, Mr. Pollard confirmed that this was wrong. Around 2,000 applications by members of Afghan specialist units who had previously been rejected for help are being reviewed. About 25% of these are expected to have their decisions overturned, Mr. Pollard said. Eligible Afghans and their families are now being invited to relocate to the UK, the minister said. Mr. Pollard told the Commons, officials have now confirmed that there is evidence of payments from the UK government to members of the Afghan specialist units including CF333 and ATF444, the triples, and for some individuals, this demonstrates a direct employment relationship. This is evidence that goes beyond previously identified top-up payments and reimbursements for operational expenses, which do not demonstrate such an employment relationship in themselves. This is of course contrary to the position reported to the Parliament by the previous government that no such evidence of direct employment existed. The joint investigation found that dozens of Afghan commandos were paid by and worked hand in glove with the British military, had been tortured or killed by the Taliban since the fall of Kabul. Great. You have them work for you and then you abandon them to terrorists. Great job, the UK. The investigation revealed that the first time the members of the CF333 and ATF444 had received a salary from the British government. Despite the close connection, most of the triples were not evacuated in August 2021, and many were subsequently rejected for help by the MOD. Man, Ministry of Defense just completely using and abandoning people. In some cases, seemingly no consideration had been given to evidence submitted by Afghans to the MOD of their employment, training, and closeness with UK Special Forces. Following the investigation, government ministers continued to throw doubt on suggestions that the triples were paid directly by the UK, with James Heappey, who was the Armed Forces Minister, saying advice from MOD officials was to the contrary. Mr. Pollard said on Monday, October 14th, that the slow pace of the MOD's review into these applications has been a source of deep concern. He assured MPs that if a decision is overturned as part of this review, applicants are informed immediately. I've already begun to assign eligible decisions to relocate eligible triples to the UK. Mr. Pollard said that the Conservative minister's incorrect statement to the Parliament about payments to these Afghans was not a conscious effort to mislead. Instead, he said, there had been a failure to assess and share the right digital records and the challenges with information flows across departmental lines. Look at this guy. These guys aren't jerks. These guys aren't abandoning people. They just didn't get the right info. The data was not corroborated properly. Whatever, dude. As far as I'm concerned, they're assholes. They didn't even look enough. You know, they didn't look hard enough to make sure they didn't make a mistake. They just assumed they weren't making any mistakes. And that these guys deserve to, you know, get tortured by the Taliban because of all the hard work they did for the UK. He explained, I am clear that this sort of system failure is not good enough. Eligible former triples and their family will now rightly receive the sanctuary that their work in support of our troops in Afghanistan deserves. I am confident that we'll be able to relocate these eligible to safety and start a new life here in the UK. We will keep pushing forward this work at pace, knowing that we did right by those who stood shoulder to shoulder with armed forces in Afghanistan. Thank you for lurking, Foxy. Conservative MP Sir Julian Lewis raised concerns with Mr. Pollard about whether any employment records are being withheld, for example by special forces that would help identify former members of the triples. Mr. Pollard said the review was still ongoing, but stressed that top-up payments or operational payments were excluded as evidence of employment. Labour MP Louise Jones asked what would be done for other units, not just the triples, that also worked closely with British troops. Mr. Pollard said the review would consider other units in its due course. Responding to the news, Sarah Fenby Dixon, a campaigner of Refugee Aid Network, which has supported many triples, said, I am glad that the current government is now acknowledging what we have been saying for the last 3 years. The triples did brave and dangerous work in support of the UK's mission in Afghanistan, and as a result have come under great threat from the Taliban. They deserve to be relocated to safety in the UK, and it is gratifying to see this is now happening. It is hoped that the review will be completed quickly, and everything will be done to get these people to safety as soon as possible. That Independent had documented numerous cases of Afghans who worked with British troops who have not been accepted for relocation to the UK. Many have felt forced to take perilous journeys to the UK in hope of help on arrival. Those who are accepted under the MOD's AirWrap policy are being housed in military bases around the UK. Ministers have pledged to move these Afghans swiftly into armed forces accommodations or other suitable homes. It's nothing worse than think you've secured the future of yourself and your family by, deciding to sign up and help the UK forces in Afghanistan, and then you find out, oh, actually you're not applicable. You're gonna have to walk all the way here and ask for asylum, and then we'll still deny you because anti-immigration sentiment in Europe is just uncontrollable at the moment, and doesn't matter anything you're going through. Sounds like a personal problem. You're gonna have to deal with it yourself. We're not here to help you. All that bullshit that people say to deny people the human decency of having a life that isn't accosted by, terrorism, really. But there's some good news for these guys. Some of the triples will have their applications relooked at, and as I said, they're expecting 25% of those people to instantly be approved and told you can come over right now. We're sending a plane to get you, and you can live freely in the United Kingdom. That's my story. On to yours.
Okay, we're gonna go on to the environment. And there's a couple of new wildlife refuges in the world. Our first one is the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuaries. This is from a website called Sanctuaries, NOAA.gov. President Biden has designated the Chumash Heritage National Marine Sanctuary as America's 17th National Marine Sanctuary. The sixth off the U.S. West Coast and one of the largest in the National Marine Sanctuary system. The sanctuary encompasses 4,543 square miles of Central California's beautiful coastline and ocean waters, providing a protection to nationally significant natural, cultural, and historical resources while bringing new opportunities for research, community engagement, education, and outreach activities. Indigenous peoples have lived on California's Central Coast for over 10,000 years. Submerged natural cultural resources, including possible ancient village locations once present along paleo shorelines, will now receive long-term protection through sanctuary regulations. The sanctuary honors deep cultural and historical importance of the place to be region's indigenous peoples. Respect will guide community-focused efforts to protect the marine environment and ensure long-term care of this treasured ocean place. The Office of National Marine Sanctuary serves as a trustee for the network of underwater parks encompassing more than 629,000 square miles of marine and Great Lakes waters from Washington State to the Florida Keys, from Lake Huron to American Samoa. The network includes a system of 17 national marine sanctuaries and here's a big long word, Papahana Moka Ikea and Rose Atoll, a marine national monuments. That first one must be in Hawaii, I'm guessing.
Yes.
Could be American Samoa. Could be a big long word, lots of syllables. In other news, Australia says, hold my beer. That's right, Australia announced a mammoth new marine reserve. Not literally hold my beer, because Australian beers are kind of big. They got these big oil cans. My water
really?
Just dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not. The first Australian beer was Foster's, and it was in a big oil can with a seam on the side. Big old things. It's like, oh. And then 3 days later, I woke up. Anyway, conservationists said this. Australia announced a mammoth new marine reserve. Back to Australia. Conservationists have Conservationists have cautiously welcomed the Australian government's decision to create a new vast marine reserve in the sub-Antarctic. The 300,000 square miles, which really dwarfs the one in California, extension of the existing Heard Island and McDonald Islands marine reserves was signed off on Monday. It means it now protects 52% of its oceans, more than any other nation. The region covered by the new park is a hotbed of biodiversity, home to marine life found nowhere else on Earth. But while the move to protect it was welcomed by conservationists, many question why some key habitats were omitted. It's good but not great, said Fiona Maxwell, National Oceans Manager for the Pew Charitable Trust, which campaigned for the extension. The marine park will ensure the bulk of the waters around these islands will be free from mining and new damaging pelagic fisheries. She says it's good but not great. It's a good thing we're talking on Good News Tuesday or Good News Tuesday.
Not great news. Yeah.
Tuesday. It's not great news. It's good news. However, the government has decided to leave important undersea canyons, highly biodiversity mounds, and the Williams Ridge outside the sanctuaries. This added academics from the University of Western Australia was a missed opportunity. Oh, so yeah, well, environmentalists are going to probably want more than they get, and there's always somebody on the other side going, yeah, but there's going to be shipping lanes. I got to go through there, something like that. Of course, shipping is one of those things that spreads invasive species because they will attach to a ship and just go for a ride through ocean currents and everything. Just sit there, I'm going for a ride, and they end up somewhere else and ruin their ecosystem. So anyway, there's your stories on the marine let's call them sanctuaries. Yeah, sanctuaries. That's the word.
Sanctuary.
By the way, I did send you a clip, but it's 3.5 minutes. I don't know if we'll run the whole thing. Might as well. I don't know.
Okay. All right. In my next news story, let's talk about our culture segment. The good news coming in culture. Do you have hearing loss due to music? Well, it looks like the world is finally ready to take that stuff seriously, at least looking at everyone's attitudes toward it. This is from Oliver Keynes on The Guardian. If you attended a music festival this summer, you might have noticed that earplugs have been a moment. Earplugs were once ugly, disposable foam bullets that crudely muffled sound, but a new generation are using reusable and designed earplugs to let a wider range of sound through while canceling out frequencies that might lead to hearing problems. They're also, for the first time, quite cool. The brand with the most name recognition is Loop. Yeah, I've seen their ads on my feed many a times, which markets its products as a kind of jewelry, costing around 20 pounds to 60 pounds. Loop partnered with prestigious UK dance festival Houghton, while rival player Alpine has concession stands at Boomtown, Elbro and All Points East, and BST Hyde Park. For John O'Heal, a director of ACS Custom, who molded earplugs are considered a music industry standard, this stigma-free market is long overdue. A few years ago, festivals felt like they were emitting some kind of liability if they had us there. Recently, I've been contacted about working with more. I think because they're getting worried. Yeah, if nobody can hear your music, they're not going to come to your venue. We're all deaf now. Yeah, I don't see live music anymore because it gives me a headache. Because I have tinnitus, yeah. The worry might stem from the hearing charity Tinnitus UK, recently finding that 7.6 billion, oh sorry, not billion, there's not billions of them, 7.6 million Brits suffer from the condition, 1.5 million of them severely. In February, the World Health Organization stated that over 1 billion young adults are at risk of permanent, avoidable hearing loss due to unsafe listening practices. The sense that this problem is affecting more and more young people is supported by writer and DJ Seb Wheeler, who guest-edited Mix Mag's Tinnitus Awareness Week coverage this year. Every time I post about tinnitus, he says, my DMs get flooded. Yeah, this is true. This is why I don't like wearing headphones anymore. Not only because it hurts my head to wear headphones, but I have tinnitus. My ears ring all the time randomly. I'll lose complete hearing in my left ear, and then I'll have to like just give my brain some time and it's not good. I liked being able to hear, and I would like to keep being able to hear. Olivia Swash, a music journalist and podcast producer, started experiencing a mild form of tinnitus in her early 20s. After going to gigs, bars, and clubs that are too loud without wearing earplugs, the ringing will be much worse for days afterwards. She wears her Apple AirPod Pros on noise cancellation mode at gigs. A recent New York Times study, while advocating for proper earplugs, showed that this reduces the decibels reaching your ears. The sound is way better, Swash says, and I don't really care if it looks weird. Most wisdom around what is considered safe is rooted in workplace health and safety practices, as Matthew Alsop, an audiologist for Harley Street Hearing who runs a YouTube channel devoted to hearing, explains. In the UK, the safe threshold stands at being exposed to 85 decibels over an 8-hour period. This is the limit at which an employer would need to provide PPE, such as ear defenders. However, for every 3 decibels the threshold rises, Alsop continues. You have the time you can be safely exposed. So at 100 decibels, technically you can only be exposed for 15 minutes before you'll start to damage your ears. Terrifyingly, an average club volume comes at around 100 decibels, and I don't think anyone's going into the club for 15 minutes. While according to the Musicians Union, even a classical or orchestra can reach 94 decibels, and a rock band can peak at as high as 125 decibels. If, like me, you're always down in the front, the vibes might be stronger, but the decibel toll gets worse. Why do we put ourselves through this? People like a loud gig, said Leon Purse, who has mixed the sound for live performances by the Zootons, 10cc, and Bert Orton. It's a visceral experience, that bone-shaking energy that thumps in your chest. It draws your attention. It's loud to talk to anyone, so you're feeling it all together. Keel agrees. Human beings take its sound from our bodies through conduction, not just our ears. It increases our adrenaline levels when we feel sound in our body. Maybe you should just not listen to it then, and you can, if you just need to feel it, I think that's good enough. It can be hard to tear yourself away, but earplug retailers state that it's important to take breaks even when using their products. This view is echoed by Lawrence Kendall, an audiovisual technician. Give your ears a rest and find a spot in the crowd that feels more comfortable to your ears. Bass frequencies are actually not as harmful, so finding a spot where the high end is a bit rounded off will definitely help. Amid the rise in earplug use to combat hearing damage, there's another simpler solution. Reduce the volume. I know, but unlike earplug use, there's still a stigma attached to asking someone to turn it down. It's seen as incredibly uncool, even overbearing, despite the dangers of long exposure to loud noise. I would never have thought to ask, said Swash. I would assume, perhaps incorrectly, that surely the sound engineer knows what they're doing. A rare voice advocating for the right to say that it's too loud is Gregory Scott, founder of the Soundprint app. This global database of noise level readings, openly sourced by its users, was formed to help find quiet venues which are more conducive to conversation and protect people's hearing health in the process. Scott says, Soundprint's findings show, for example, that London has the loudest bars and restaurants in Europe. Not a surprise to anyone that's tried to go on a romantic date in the capital. It's hard to know for certain if a place is too loud, continues Scott, whose app features a decibel reader that can show to a venue manager. People think there's a stigma around being the one to raise the issue of noise, but as the world gets louder, it's doing damage to our bodies that we can't ignore. So, this is, if you can, take those earplugs to your next outing, or I guess check out this app that shows, Soundprint app, see how loud the places you're going to really are. And that's a reminder that if you are listening to something at 85 decibels or lower, you can be there for, what do they say, 8 hours, 3 hours. But as soon as you get to 100, you're limiting yourself to 15 minutes or less of exposure, because you might end up damaging your hearing permanently. So, unfortunately for now, only you can protect yourself from hearing loss. So if you care about such things, take the prerogative and do it to protect your own hearing. That's my story. On to this day in history. You're muted.
am muted because I keep knocking stuff over. Anyway. No, if you look closely at the stage, you'll see your favorite rock stars wearing hearing protection.
Drummers, especially.
The drummer.
Yeah.
The drummers have big old headphones on so they can keep their timing. But even the singers and everybody else, hell, the speakers are right next to them. They can hear the speakers, so they wear headphones. Hearing protection. Anyway. And back to this day in history, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
This day in history, in 70 BC, Virgil, the Roman poet best known for his national epic, the Aeneid, I don't know how to say that, was born near Mantua. It's spelled A-E-N-E-I-D. Have fun with that. 879, Boso, B-O-S-O, Boso convoked the bishops of Provence and had them proclaim their king. All right. Not a lot of detail on that one. I have no idea what that even meant. I don't know what Boso is. I don't know what Provence is. So I'm going to call myself, I don't know what that even meant. Anyway, somebody out there does. Let me know. In 1839, encouraged by her uncle Leopold, Queen Victoria of England proposed to her cousin, Prince Albert, and generations of inbreds were born. 1844, classical scholar and philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche was born in Prussia, one of the most influential of all modern thinkers. Happy birthday, Nietzsche. 1917, Dutch dancer and courtesan Mata Hari was executed by the French near Paris, charged with spying for Germany during World War I. Mata Hari, the most famous, voluptuous, femme fatale spy in history. 1928, some 4 days after leaving Germany, the Graf Zeppelin landed in Lakehurst, New Jersey, completing its first transatlantic trip. You know, my dad actually has a postcard.
Really?
When I was a kid, I think my brother ended up getting his stamp collection. But my dad had a postcard that was postmarked Hindenburg because they delivered mail from Europe, right? Airmail. That was one of their things, back and forth airmail, right? So he had a postcard sent from Germany that was delivered to him from at Hindenburg postage stamp or postmark on it. People. I don't know what happened to it. My brother probably has it, and he's a jerk, so he probably burned it. Who knows? He probably sold it for beer. Who knows? Anyway, man. He's an idiot. Anyway, I'll say that about my brother. He's an idiot. He's just an idiot. What can I say? He calls me out for being, I don't know, having an opinion. I gotta leave the country because I have an opinion. Anyway, 1934 on this day, Chinese communists began the Long March, the 6,000-mile trek that resulted in the relocation of Communist Revolutionary Base from southeast China to northwest China, and the emergence of the Mao Zedong as the undisputed leader of the Chinese Communist Party. Mao, he lived a good long time. Holy crap.
Yeah.
In 1940, the comedy classic The Great Dictator premiered in New York City. Charlie Chaplin's biggest box office success. It satirized Adolf Hitler and Nazism and condemned anti-Semitism. 1940, Charlie Chaplin getting ahead of the game. 1951, the first episode of I Love Lucy aired on American television. The comedy series which starred Lucille Ball and her real-life husband Desi Arnaz became a classic. 1951, the infancy of television, really. 1966, Huey P. Newton, and Bobby Seale founded the Black Panther Party, the mission of which was to protect African Americans from police brutality. It later developed into a Marxist revolutionary group that, among other things, called for the arming of all African Americans and release of blacks from jail. It's kind of unfair to call them Marxists. Marxist is a very strange term to throw at people. You're Marxist if you believe people shouldn't be hoarding wealth. That makes you a Marxist these days. Oh, okay. That's my Marxist. That's me. 1969, President Abdurrashid Kali Sharma Arki. And then I put in parentheses as this was going to be easier to pronounce in parentheses or something. Okay. Anyway, the president of Somalia, he was assassinated on this day in 1969. 1987, a military coup in Burkina Faso overthrew the head of the state, Thomas Sankara, killing him and 8 others. In 1993, South Africans Nelson Mandela and F.W. de Klerk were named the recipients of the Nobel Peace Prize for their work in the peaceful termination of the apartheid regime and for laying the foundations for a new democratic South Africa. 2003, on this day, China became the 3rd country to launch a crewed space flight, Shenzhou 5, which was piloted. Yeah, that's right. They put some people into space. The 3rd country. The first was Russia, the 2nd was the U.S., and the 3rd was China. In 2003, it took them a lot of time to send somebody into space. Shenzhou 5, which was piloted by Yang Liu, orbited Earth 14 times during a 21-hour flight. We can do it too, as China said. In 2018, American investor and philanthropist Paul Allen died. He was co-founded Microsoft along with Bill Gates. Rest in peace at Paul Allen. He was a decent guy. Our featured event in 1959, the final conference on Antarctic Treaty. On this day in 1959, the final conference on the Antarctic Treaty convened in Washington, D.C. After 6 weeks of negotiation, the treaty was signed by 12 countries, preserving the continent for free scientific study until we find some mineral there and we're going to start fighting over it. Can't wait for the Antarctic Wars. Can't wait. Then the Moon Wars. Don't forget the moon. We're fighting over that. And then Mars. Let's fight over Mars. Let's ruin everything.
Let's fight over Europa. We're going to find gold deposits on Europa.
Right. They'll find plutonium in its natural state or something. Yeah, you're right. Probably gold or platinum or something, right? Our feature biography, John L. Sullivan, American boxer, born in October 15th, 1858, and died January 2nd, 1918, at the age of 59. So happy birthday, John L. Sullivan. Michael, other birthdays today. We've got the Akbar, who was born in 1542, of the Mughal Emperor. He was the Mughal Emperor, born in 1542. Akbar, that was his name. We already covered Nietzsche. 1936, the birthday of Michael Foucault, the French philosopher and historian.
Foucault.
1931, A.P. What's that?
It's Foucault.
Foucault. Michael Foucault.
Yeah.
French philosopher and historian. Sorry for butchering your name, but he probably didn't hear it. 1931, A.P.J. Abdul Kalam, president of India, was born. 1943, Penny Marshall, American actress and director, famous for Laverne and Shirley, daughter of the creator of Happy Days. I can't think of his name. His last name was Marshall. I'll think of his name in a minute. But Penny Marshall's birthday, she's passed away, unfortunately. She was born in 1943. And it's National Days. National Days, we'll get to those. Gary Marshall was her dad's name. I had to think of it. It is National Pregnancy and Infant Loss Remembrance Day. That's a sad thing. But yeah, I mean, if you lost an infant or had a pregnancy that you wanted and was happy and it terminated, unfortunately,
yeah,
you probably never forget that. I would imagine you probably never forget.
But it's more like telling everyone else it happens. You know?
It's like, oh, I'm in mourning today. Okay. It's White Cane Safety Day. Of course, white canes are for blind people. We're talking about deaf people from concerts. Let's talk about blind people now. It's National Grouch Day. So
your day.
Perfect on a Tuesday. Tuesday is the perfect grouch day. Who wants a Tuesday? I used to call Tuesday second Monday.
Oh, really? Okay.
Oh, yeah, because you're not really that much closer to the weekend, really. Yeah, not really. And you still got to get up and go to work. That's National Grouch Day today. It's pro-life day of silent solidarity. Okay, and it's National Latino AIDS Awareness Day. We have a lot of AIDS awareness days. We just have several of them in groupment and categories instead of just having one. I can see what their motive here is. We're just going to once a week we're going to have an AIDS Awareness Day and lump it with a different demographic. And it's National I Love Lucy Day. We know why that is, because this is a day it premiered in 1951. So October 15th is National I Love Lucy Day. And if you don't love Lucy, what the hell's wrong with you? Not the Lucy from the Peanuts cartoon. I can see why you don't like her. She's always pulling that football away from Charlie Brown.
Yeah.
Not that Lucy. We don't necessarily, we tolerate that Lucy. We don't love her. National Cheese Curd Day. The culinary delight from Wisconsin. Deep fried. Of course, they're showing deep fried cheese curds, which are not cheese curds. They're deep fried cheese curds, which is a totally different animal. Totally indistinguishable from any other deep fried cheese of any kind. Usually when you see deep fried cheese, it's mozzarella anyway. It's not cheese curds. Cheese curds are these little odds and ends that come from the cheese making process, and then when you rub them on your teeth, they squeak. That's how you know they're
Squeaky, squeaky.
cheese curds.
Yeah.
Squeaky, squeaky. If they don't squeak, they're not cheese curds. It's just cheese. It's National Pharmacy Technician Day. So make sure that guy's giving you the drugs. Make sure you know that man or woman who's giving you your drugs that keep you alive, you give him a high five, buy him a coffee, something. Say hi to him. Get to know him. Say, hey, what's your life been like? It's National, here's one I gotta look up. Shawarma Day. You know what shawarma Day? You know what shawarma? What?
Shawarma.
Shawarma? Do you know what it is? Because you already know
Yeah,
how to
it's
pronounce
food.
Shawarma. Bursting with a marinade of Mediterranean herbs and spices, shawarma chicken slowly cooks in a vertical rotisserie spit. The tender meat is then thinly sliced, grilled, and added to the pita wrap.
I'm pretty sure had you eat some of it when you came to the Netherlands. It's very popular in Europe.
It's just rotisserie.
There's
meat.
a lot of.
It's not really anything.
There's a lot of Turkish people who immigrated to Europe in the 90s, and they shared shawarma with everyone, and now it's a staple food in Europe because Europeans love to say, "Yeah, this is our food now."
Yeah. Well, I will definitely stop by I've done this in Puerto Rico. It's big. There's usually those stands out there with a pig rotating on a spit. I'll stop at those.
I had shawarma 2 days ago fresh from a Turkish shop. Fresh from
wow, nice.
Very good.
Oh, and it's also National Esthetician Day. An esthetician is somebody that pulls the hairs out of your body and stuff. Makes you know,
help your pimples for you.
You're Brazilian, so to speak. Yeah, skincare professional. Esthetician's Day. It's National Esthetician Day. Taking care of your skin so you can all look all charming and feel your best. So those are all 11 of your days today.
Yeah, so many days.
October 15th, 2024 on Before Cheese Curds.
And don't stop there. It's also the United Nations International Hand Washing Day. That's right.
Ooh.
If you like to not spread germs and diseases, make sure that you wash your hands every time you do anything. Eat food, go to the bathroom.
I've been waiting since last October 15th
come home,
to wash my hands.
when you come home, when you make food, when you're about to make food, when you go to the bathroom, wash your hands at all times, and you'll help prevent the acceleration of pandemics and microbial.
Carry around one of them little things.
Exactly, and make sure that you actually wash your hands properly. I believe you have to do the entire chorus of Staying Alive will work. Just sing the entire chorus of your favorite song. That's usually long enough.
Just life in general.
Rub around. Make sure you get those thumbs. Everyone always forgets to rub their thumbs. And then you can also do this.
Oh, yeah.
So you can get your fingers as well. I love hand washing. And another
it's gonna be flu season.
Yeah, exactly. Another United Nations International Day
indoors.
Is let's celebrate the role and contribution of rural women in the world. That's right. It's not just those business women who are, lawyers, but also those rural women that help enhance the agricultural industry and giving those opportunities to women, because women can also lift hay bales. It's not just for men to do. Do you think back in the medieval Europe they were saying, "No, you can't help on the farm. You're a woman"? They weren't. They were like, we need everyone to help on the farm, including the cat. So everyone get get working. Rural women have always been the part of our society, and take this day to really appreciate all of them out there. That's been me, Ally, from the Netherlands. I hope you guys have a good Tuesday. This is the day to have all of the good news and just ignore all the bad news. You can worry about that stuff on Thursday, okay? And we will see you tomorrow for some wacky and weird Wednesday news, where we are going to find all the wacky and weird things that have been going on this week. So don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and of course turn on that notification bell / what other things you can do to support us. We'll see you then. Let's look at our we'll look at our mic drop moment.
I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business.
Of course, on Wednesdays you're going to be looking at how wacky everything is. So
I should like to help everyone if possible. Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to
actually can't hear this because it's a little too quiet.
We don't want to hate and despise.
Yeah, turn it up.
In this world, there's room for everyone.
Maybe put the closed captioning up.
And can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful. But we have
this is pre-World War II.
Yeah.
I mean, it was during World War II, but it's before America got involved. Let's say that.
We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want.
I mean, it's really tragic that a speech like this is still applicable to today's
we think too much,
people.
Feel too little.
Yep.
More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness.
Empathy is a lacking resource to humanity
the aeroplane and the radio have brought
decades now.
Together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in
why is Charlie Chaplin supposed to be
for
funny?
Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world. Millions of despairing men. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish.
That's true.
Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes.
Get rid of AI, please.
Who regiment your lives.
Because the AI is making people not die. We should let people die.
Treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men!
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.